Your Hit Parade, starring Frank Sinatra.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
And now, Smile a While with Lorenzo Jones and his wife, Belle.
Here's the Manhattan merry-go-round that brings you the bright side of life, that whirls you in music to all the big night spots of New York town, to hear the top songs of the week sung so clearly you can understand every word and sing them yourself.
This is the golden age of radio. I'm Dick Bertel, and tonight we'll take you on another audio excursion back to radio's formative years. You'll hear the programs that made the era golden, and meet people who made those broadcasts a reality.
The Golden Age of Radio is brought to you by WTIC Radio and Cromwell Savings Bank. Now here is your host, Dick Bertel.
Good evening, and with me once again is radio historian, collector, Ed Corcoran. And, Ed, we have a delightful guest tonight.
Yes, Dick, I thought for this evening we would call the show The Late Show because we're going to hear from a lot of late actors tonight. In fact,
I don't feel so good myself.
I think, for example, Al Jolson might have, this is what he might have sounded like if he was with us today.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I want to tell you it's a pleasure to be here. Wait a minute. Say something there. Go on.
Oh, that's great.
Well, go ahead.
Just a minute. I'm a friend of his, Eddie Cantor. Do you remember him? For heaven's sakes. And he's another friend of mine. Well, for heaven's sakes, with the whole thing there. And I was here last night, and I saw you last night, too, didn't I? And that was Georgia Jessler. What else? I'm going... Oh, just a minute. A nice little girl just passed by.
Oh, you've got to tell our audience our guest's name, Ed.
Actually, there's only one man behind all those voices. It's the great Sid Raymond, who you've seen on television and you've heard on the Golden Age of Radio, and he's with us tonight, Dick.
Sid, it's great to have you with us.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's going to be fun, I know, because we're going to do some reminiscing, and we're going to hear some voices that you've mastered over the years that are going to bring back a lot of pleasant memories.
They may not be so good now because I do all dead people.
Yeah, so I noticed that.
You know,
yeah.
Like, do you remember this fellow? Hiya, boy, hiya. There's a couple of things I want to say. You know what that was?
Yeah, it's Bert Lahr.
Oh, no, David Niven.
When did you begin impersonating? Was that as part of your vaudeville training? Or?
I guess so. It started with, remember the Borscht Circuit?
Yeah,
Catskill
sure.
Mountains. Well,
sure.
I did a lot of bits up there and whatnot, you know, and I also did a little of burlesque at one time, and we used to do 5 shows a day, and we never knew what skit we were doing until we'd walk on the stage and look at the backdrop. And in case of people listening in don't know what a backdrop is, that's a scene backstage showing a garden or something, and we walked out on the stage never knowing what bit we were going to do until we looked back and looked at the set and said, well, here we are back in Spain. And then we would go into a Spanish routine or something, you know. But then I did a lot of vaudeville, one-nighters, and then I was on with the late Major Bowes Amateur Hour.
That's how you got your start in radio. 3 times.
Exactly. 3 times. Changed my name every time because when I won with the name of Sid Raymond, they changed it to Milton Harron. How did I get the name Milton Harron? I had a friend of mine by the name of Milton and another friend by the name of Harry. And I thought Milton Harron would sound pretty good. And I got that.
Good, yeah.
And actually, I got the name Sid Raymond through a wonderful man by the name of Ruby Cowan. And I believe his son is Rogers and Cowan, publicity people. And he gave me the name. He said, Raymond's a good name. Sid. Yeah, Sid Raymond. Go ahead and make a few bucks. And I made $75 a week, and I was a big man, you know, in those days. That's 35.
What did you do on Major Bowes Amateur Hour? Play spoons, tap dance, or what?
No, I did a few of those impressions that you just heard.
Oh, did you?
See, it means nothing today, but at that time, let's see, who did I leave out? Clem McCarthy. Remember him?
Yeah.
Racing fans, here we are back to the race, and I don't know what I'm saying, but believe me, that's the way he sounded, you know.
That's right.
And then there was, hey, Abbott! Abbott and Costello, you know, and, wait, come in, my boy, sit down, have a drink. Took a shower this morning, didn't even get my feet wet.
Sidney Greenstreet.
Thank you for helping me out, because for a moment I didn't know who I was doing. And there comes Jessley, found the girl, and is going out again. There it is. And, it was very, very... Oh, I used to do a tap dance with my teeth. The man in the control room don't know what I'm doing. Oh, take that out. All right, here we go.
He's adjusting the gain, I can see that.
I might point out that Sid Raymond is appearing in Catch Me If You Can at the Chateau de Ville Dinner Theater in East Windsor, along with Jane Russell. And
yeah, she's also there. You can't miss her.
We had to have somebody there, just from Hollywood to make it sound good, right?
It's really, let's see, I was here. No, not here. When was I here? After the flood. Can you imagine? These people must think I've got a long beard.
Yeah, really.
But I shaved this morning. And I stayed at the Bond Annex Hotel. I played the State Theater. That's right.
1936.
I was here with 36. I was on with Major Bose, 36, 37, different names all the time.
Did Bose have a traveling show for vaudeville? Is that the
different
idea?
Units.
Uh-huh.
And in my unit, let's see, we had Paul Winchell. He was a Major Bose amateur.
Yeah.
Some fellow by the name of Frank Sinatra.
I heard it.
The Hoboken Trio. I think the whole thing was $135 a week for the trio. Whatever happened to Frank Sinatra?
Lost track of
these
him.
things happen.
Whatever happened to Hoboken?
And then, that's right. Oh, yeah, and in my impressions, I used to do a W.C. Fields, and he sounded something like this. Oh, yes, quite so. What is that peculiar odor surrounding me? Oh, yes, fresh air. So it is, so it is. Goodbye, my little chickadee, my little dove. I must be off. Yes, I believe I am. Fields, and I would throw in, LaGuardia. Remember him?
Yeah.
Now, ladies, this was during the war, and everybody had to save their fat and send it for the... oh, yes, ladies, put your fat cans in the book for the butchers. And it was very, very interesting. Oh, yes, indeed. Oh, yes. And that was Mayor LaGuardia. They used the fat, I guess, for
yes, of course,
munitions or something.
I remember, yeah. And that was one of his lines.
Don't forget to save your fat cans. Oh, yes, for the butcher. Just save your fat cans for the butcher. And let's see. Oh, then we went out. Let's see. There was Dave Barry. A fellow by the name of Merrill, Robert. What was his name? It's Robert Merrill today.
Moisha Miller?
Moisha Miller.
Well, I think that was, wasn't it?
No. Merrill Miller. No,
something like that,
anyway,
yeah.
Robert Merrill. We used to do club dates together, $25 a night. And whatever happened to him? Then I went on with Arthur Godfrey. And Arthur Godfrey was Talent Scouts.
Yeah.
And I did the impressions, and Vic Damone and myself were tied for first place. He's also gone places, and here I am in East Windsor. Well, what are you going to do? That's life,
Well, last summer Jack Benny played a show here over in Candlewood Lake, so you're in the big time compared to that.
Oh, sure.
But for different money.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. You want to tell us a little bit about the show?
Oh, the show is Catch Me If You Can. It's a murder mystery, and as a matter of fact, I've been doing it now for 4 months, and I still don't know who the criminal is. Believe me, I've got a part, I come out, the people say, look, he comes out as though he doesn't know what's going on. And they're so right.
That's marvelous.
Someday, when you come down and see the show and explain it to me, but the people love it. They love it, and they come. The food is great.
Yeah.
The show is wonderful. Let's see, what do? We do a show every night except Monday night. How do I look out there?
All right, fine. One of the shows that you appeared on was a program that I know is one of Ed's favorites, and that's Duffy's Tavern.
Duffy's Tavern.
I was Clifton Finnegan on that, and I replaced Charlie Cantor, and we taped this show in Puerto Rico because of the tax. For tax purposes. For him, not for me. Because I still lived in Brooklyn, I had to pay my tax. I was only a temporary resident where he was a permanent resident. Mm-hmm. This is Ed Gardner I'm talking about. And inasmuch as it was a new industry, it was tax-free. So whatever he would make, he wouldn't pay taxes on. Because he was very happy, the Puerto Rican government, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, was so happy that he was down there.
There was a lot of publicity over that, wasn't there?
And I was there, and I sounded something like this. Hi, Arch. Dad, do you like the tuxedo I'm wearing? I got it off a dead guy. Yeah, every time I lay down, though, my arms keep crossing across my chest. So long, Arch. I don't know how I made that up. Where did that come from?
Would you like to hear the show as it sounded back then?
Do you have a tape?
I have
We taped it down in Puerto Rico. Well, the voice you're going to hear now will probably be Charlie Cantor.
This is off a transcription, and we
Wonderful.
also have Miss Duffy on here, and
Really?
as well as Eddie the waiter, so we have all the people from the cast.
Great. Let's hear it.
Yeah? Eddie, there's a rumor around that you have had an offer from Grogan's Grill.
Uh-huh.
And the rumor also says that you're thinking of taking it.
Keep your eye on that rumor. It's got a future.
Look, Eddie, you're not serious. Where did you get this idea about leaving?
Just looked into my wallet, and there it was.
But kid, this is madness. You can't leave here. Wait, you're a part of Duffy's Tavern.
Yeah, the part that goes over the cash register last.
Just a second now, Eddie. Is it that you feel that Duffy ain't done right by you?
Well, now you know yourself that when it comes to blowing that horn of plenty, he ain't no Harry James.
Eddie, leave us discuss this. I think if you're fair-minded, I can show you that you're making a mistake. Now answer me. Do you object to working 7 days a week?
Definitely.
And I suppose you object to putting in 15 hours a day.
Very definitely.
I suppose you also object to not being paid no salary.
Extremely definitely.
Eddie, I'm afraid you didn't enter this discussion with an open mind. Don't you realize there's more important things than money?
Yeah, but they all cost money. Look, Mr. Archie, now I'd like to have a salary. I just can't get along on the tips I collect.
Now don't hand me that, Eddie. I've seen nights when you walked out of here with enough quarters to choke a horse.
Or kill him with lead poisoning. Mr. Archie, I just can't do it. In addition to the tips, I think I ought to have $1 a week salary.
How does 35 cents hit you?
It don't even muss my hair.
All right, then go ahead and quit. But it's hard to think that you take this attitude toward a man who's been your friend. Almost your brother. Through thick and thin. Laughter and tears.
Be sure to listen to Stella Dallas at this same time tomorrow morning.
Okay, go ahead. Scarf that friendship.
Howard.
Hello.
Hello, Eddie.
Finnegan, what is your opinion of a man that bites the hand that feeds him?
Well, some people will eat anything. Why, what's your trouble?
It's Eddie here. He wants to get paid more money.
Money? Eddie, my boy, money is nothing. You know what I always say?
What?
Be it ever so humble, there's no place like home.
What's that got to do with money?
Well, we owe 6 months' rent.
Thanks, Finnegan. You're a big help. Now, look, Eddie, I think you're confused about this whole thing. What you need is a real nice vacation. Tell you what you do.
What?
Take the rest of the day off.
That would only add to the confusion. I wouldn't know what to do with a day off.
Well, what did you do on your last day off?
Went up to Boston. They were having a tea party.
I can see you're in a wrong mood. Why don't you go out and breathe some nice, clean air, and maybe you'll change your mind, huh?
That might help. Okay, see you later.
Yeah, look, Archie, I don't like to seem a ghoul, but have you got any ideas where I could get a job?
A job for you? I don't know. Have you tried Ripley? What do you want with a job?
Oh, I gotta get away from home, Arch. I just can't stand that fighting.
Your mother and father again, huh?
Yeah.
What do they fight about?
Oh, the simplest things. Take this morning. It all started about the new silver coffee pot.
Coffee pot, huh?
Yeah, my mother hit me father over the head with it.
Well, why did she have to use the silver coffee pot?
Because it was their 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh. Do they fight all the time like that?
Oh, yeah. Fight. Except once every week they quit for half an hour.
How's that?
They stopped to listen to Mr. Anthony.
Well, ain't there nothing you can do to stop them?
Oh, I tried to. This morning I said, Mom and Papa, Dude, why do you fight like this? Why, when you have so much to be thankful for?
Then?
He took a look at me and started swinging again.
Well, must be kind of tough at that, Finnegan, having to watch your mother hit your father with a coffee pot every morning.
Well, don't bother me too much. You see, I'm a tea drinker myself. But that's why I'd like to get a job, Arch, to get away from it all.
Well, I'll tell you how you can pick up a fast nickel, Finnegan.
A nickel? How?
Well, I want you to go over to Grogan's across the street.
Yeah?
Make sure they don't notice you.
Yeah.
And if you see Eddie the waiter talking to Grogan, come right back and let me know.
Oh, boy. I'll be like a G-man.
Yeah, sure, goon. Okay. Now hurry back.
Oh, well, hello, Archie.
Hello, Miss Duffy.
Archie, how do you like my new hat?
Oh, lovely. How often do you have to water it?
Don't be silly. These flowers are artificial.
Oh, I see.
Only the fruit is real.
Look, why do dames' hats have to have everything on them, including the kitchen stove?
Because they serve a very important function. When you pass a woman on the street, what's the first thing you look at?
Miss Duffy. Leave us stick to hats.
Anyway, you should be talking about clothes, the way you dress.
What's wrong with the way I dress? My clothes fit perfectly.
Yeah, but who?
Look, I got no time to be standing here brandying insults. I got enough to worry about.
What have you got to worry about?
Eddie, the waiter, he's thinking about quitting. And because he can't pry a measly $1 a week salary out of that nickel-nursing old man of yours.
Huh! A fine way to talk about Papa after all he's done for you.
What's he done?
He got you started, gave you responsibility, took you into his confidence, taught you the inside workings of the business.
Miss Duffy, I do not consider helping your father polish up pennies to be passed off as dimes a junior partnership.
Well, that's the great show, Duffy's Tavern. Sid Raymond is our guest, and we'll get back to our guest right after this message from our sponsor.
Get growing. You can count the difference when you're growing. Cromwell Savings Bank of Cromwell.
It's time to spring back into shape with a home improvement loan from Cromwell Savings Bank. Spring is here, and the green trees and warm weather aren't too far behind. Warm weather is an excellent time to remodel your home, and Cromwell Savings Bank has the greenbacks to finance your home improvement. You have the green light, so go ahead and repair the roof or revamp the rec room with a home improvement loan from your friends at Cromwell Savings Bank. Cromwell.
Grow more with us. Cromwell Savings Bank of Cromwell.
Cromwell Savings Bank, member of FDIC and equal housing lender, is located at Main and West Streets in Cromwell.
Sid Raymond, who is appearing at the Chateau de Ville Theater in East Windsor with Jane Russell and Catch Me If You Can, our guest tonight on the Golden Age of Radio. And Sid was sharing some delightful stories about Duffy's Tavern and some rather poignant ones, too.
Well, as a matter of fact, if you want to hear the story about Ed Gardner was an official, one of the high mucky-mucks at J. Walter Thompson Advertising Agency in New York, who were the sponsors, or rather the advertising agency for Duffy's Tavern. And they were auditioning people for the part of Archie. And they auditioned so many people over and over again. It was really a tiresome thing. And finally one person said, wait a minute, Ed, let me hear you talk. He said, oh, Archie don't like that, you know? He says, wait a minute, you are Archie. He said, what? He says, yes, you're no longer with J. Walter Thompson. You're going to run the show. And that's how he became Ed Gardner, Archie of Duffy's Tavern.
No acting background at all?
As far as I know, none, no. Mm-hmm. And he was married to Shirley Booth, as you know, and she played Miss Duffy. And then he taped a lot of these shows, quite a few of them, down in Puerto Rico. And it was wonderful living down there because I replaced Charlie Cantor, the voice that you just heard.
Right.
But mine is a little more gravel, probably. But he auditioned so many people for Finnegan. that when I came in, and he says, I got on there. I said, hi, Art. He says, and he stopped me right there. He says, come on here. Can't, come here. I want to talk to you. Right? He said, you want to go to Puerto Rico? He says, how much you want to go to Puerto Rico? So I figured, gee, this is really something. So I said, yeah, one show a week, you know. I said, $7.50? And I didn't mean $7.50. He said, $7. He says, oh, you want to go for $500? And I was tempted to say, yeah, I'll take it. I was like, yeah, I was, you know. And I said, oh, boy, this is something. So I finally went down there. I think I got $600 a week. And in those days, this is 1950.
That's right.
$600 went a little further. Today would buy $6 worth of food, but it was really very interesting. Then I took the voice of Finnegan, and I sort of converted it into, and I did this for famous players, famous studios, which was affiliated with Paramount Pictures, and they did Baby Huey. Baby Huey, that's the animated cartoon of the duck with the diaper, you know, and he said, I'm in the mood for love, simply because I need me to you know. And then when I worked with Red Skelton, and he does that Clem Kadiddlehoffer,
yeah, same voice,
and he did he did Moose. What is that with the moose? The
cartoon character, you mean?
Yeah.
Bull Moose.
Bull Moose,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And I worked with Red Skelton, a wonderful guy. Always has cigars in his mouth. Never lights them, but always has cigars in his mouth. And he did, you know. And I sort of incorporated those things. And then later on, I did Catnip, and I did a Bert Law type. What are you doing? Don't touch that thing! Yay! They always lit a firecracker to my tail, you know? And I went down and all that, you see? And that was all very interesting, and it was wonderful working with, as you said, Jackson Beck and all these people. And then I was on with Olive Oil. And incidentally, Olive Oil is Mae Questel. Mae Questel is doing, hi dear, Bluebell's here. You know, that's Olive Oil.
That's right.
See? I know it's right because I was there. That's right. And it was all very, very. All these, then you see Casper the Friendly Ghost, and every once in a while you'll hear my voice coming in.
Sure.
And for an extra $25, we did extra voices. But in those days, we probably got $125 or something, and we were happy to be working. No residuals at all. Today. Oh, it's really paying off big. Yeah. But in the meantime, they sold, I understand Paramount sold all this to Mattel's toys for about $7 million, and they're playing them over and over. I may be wrong, you know, but they're playing this over and over and over, but none of the actors get anything on it.
Yeah, they're not making that many new ones. And the thing
and
about
you meet people on the street and they say, boy, are you making money? Heard you yesterday again, you know?
We went back into the files.
Oh, I got to tell you something.
Yes,
I was
go ahead.
on with Robert Montgomery, and he was a wonderful guy. It was Robert Montgomery Presents. What was that show?
That was the name of it.
And at the breaks, he would use a teleprompter and do
and blow the lines all the time. Yeah.
Right now, he has a teleprompter with a magnifying glass over it, you know, to make sure he can see it because he's on television. He doesn't want to wear glasses. And he had a line. He said, in the second act, little did he realize that beyond his appearance, now here's what he says, and now in the second act, little diddle diddle, and now in the second act, little diddle diddle, and now in the second act, little did he realize that, and it finally came out, you know, and he's reading, and God forbid we should miss a line, and we're not reading, you know, it's help. You see, that's one thing. When you tape today, it's so different. I mean, if you make a mistake, you do it over again. You don't want to make any mistakes. But when you're live, and I love the directors. I used to do Armstrong Theater of the Air with Paul Newman and Frank McHugh. Ha ha! You remember Frank McHugh? Inga Stevens, a wonderful girl. Nikki Nehemiah Persoff. You've seen him, yeah. And he only had an under 5 line on that thing there. See? And when you're on the air, you. Everything, you're scared stiff. What is my first line? Yeah, and you're live. And they say, now look, 60 million people are going to watch you tonight. And every move is critical. And
don't be nervous.
Let's have fun. Let's have fun.
Yeah, let's have a ball.
You know? Then the guy says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when you do a job and you feel you did a great job, you meet a friend the next day, he says to you, what happened to you last night? I know nothing. What did I do? What was wrong? Anyway,
destroyed,
we're
right?
here with Jane Russell in Catch Me If You Can, and it's wonderful. And we're having a great time at the Ramada Inn in Chicopee. Wonderful place, really. It
That's
is.
where you're staying?
Yes, with Bob Moskowitz being the manager there. Wonderful guy. Gave me a special rate. I sold the car, and it's really a beautiful place to be.
Sid, did you ever work with Fred Allen?
Fred Allen, yes. I can't imitate Fred Allen, but I worked with him on a Colgate Hour. A wonderful guy. Just a wonderful sense of humor, so relaxed. And talking about relaxed people, Ernie Kovacs. Do you remember Ernie Kovacs?
Sure.
I did many of his shows, and he can be playing poker. Going on live. 5 minutes before the show, he'll be playing poker. And he had a special safari jacket that Edie Adams bought for him, and it had little cartridges she made to order for his cigars. Mm-hmm. I said, do you mind those cigars? She said, they smell bad. But if he likes them, I love him. What he does is okay with me. There was another wonderful, relaxed. The reason I mentioned Ernie Kovacs is because Fred Allen was the most relaxed man and a brilliant man with a wonderful sense of humor and a kind man. It's wonderful how some of the big people are the plainest people. They were really wonderful. Even Georgie Jessel, when he's coming to the door now. He's a wonderful fellow. I remember when I did my impressions at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles, Georgie Jessel was the MC. Mm-hmm. And he brought my props out to me, and before I put a hat on to do Bert Law, or, okay, W.C. Fields, or any one of the other characters, Jessel would stop and says, Sidney, my boy, I'm the most expensive stagehand you ever had. Don't forget that. See? And that's what it is. See? I used to sing, one bright and shining light that taught me wrong from right, I found in my mother's arms. He would go off like a... And he said, Sidney, when you do an imitation of me, he says, don't give me that Jewish accent, because with me it's an impediment in speech. So outside of that, what else are we going to talk about? He'll kill me. Yeah. He's probably in Vietnam someplace or in Israel planting a bush.
That's a marvelous story. Ed Sullivan passed away earlier this month. Yes. Did you ever appear on his show?
Oh, yes. With Wayne and Schuster, two Canadian comedians. Whenever they did bits, we were always on with Wayne and Schuster. And I think that Ed Sullivan did so much for the industry, for the actor himself. It was most amazing, the progress, the things that he's done for people in show business. So many people are so grateful to Ed Sullivan for appearing because, let's see, Tom Jones, his first appearance. I remember I was on the air when, what is that singer? Hey, with the high voice. His sister was on the air, too.
Sergio Franchi?
Sergio Franchi. I sound like him. Listen, Sergio Franchi. He says he was on the first show.
We have a live audience here.
Saul Gurok brought him over to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I was down in the green room, if you want to call it that, and listening to him, and he's making his first appearance. And when he was through, he came down, perspiration all over the flop sweat, whatnot. You call it flop sweat. Yeah. When you feel you're dying, and it's first appearance, and you feel the beads of perspiration going down your back, oh, murder. And he says, how? I said, you were sincere. He says, you mean you did not hear my knees rock and crack? He was so nervous. But look at the man today with the home in Las Vegas and what? See? Who's being piped in?
I don't know. Something is being leaked into the studio. But I do want to find out about some other shows that you did. You were on Lux Radio Theater.
With Paul Muni.
Really?
And it was, he played, I remember he came in and he said, pellagra is not a germ. Pellagra is the lack of food, such as milk, meat, and eggs. Gentlemen, the butterflies have vanished. The butterflies of death have vanquished forever. That's all about pellagra. Now,
would that be a Louis Pasteur?
I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Had to be,
and I know he was very disturbed because we had an audience. He did not want to perform radio in front of an audience. And he was another wonderful guy, Paul Muni. As I said before, some of the big ones were just wonderful. Let's see, who else did I work? Oh, Paul Muni. He's a big man.
I mean, Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, of course, in The Prize. Mm-hmm. A wonderful guy. I was working with Milton Berle, who you had as your guest one day, doing Top Banana. And I'll never forget, we were playing in Owings Mills in Maryland, and we were off for 2 days, and I flew out to California to do this scene in The Prize with Paul Newman, Edward G. Robinson, and Kevin McCarthy. And when they made us up, we sat, Edward G. Robinson and myself sat alongside of each other and said, "Yeah, that's not so bad at all, yeah, see? Give me a little mark, the kind of mark that I got on my sheet that I have. That's right, yeah, that's better, see? You know, you're much heavier than I am." I said, "I beg your pardon." He was heavier than I am, you know, and shorter, too. I did my scene while Paul Muni was watching it, and we did a met. Paul Newman. That's my wife in the business, Dorothy. Why don't you go home and watch the dog? See? Yeah. Talk to Ann Albert. Go on. She'll be on soon, too. And we sat there. Let's see. They were waiting for me to get through because I had to fly back to do Top Banana. And Milton Braille says to me, "How was the weekend, Sid?" I said, "I went to California." He said, "Read your contract. You cannot leave, you know, in a equity contract. If you leave on your day off, you cannot travel no more than 75 miles from your date of engagement." Engagement, see? But if I figured, if I asked, at that time was Lee Goober, who was married to Barbara Walters. If I would say, "Lee, would it be all right for me to go to the coast? There's $2,000 there." I know darn well he would say, "Oh, no, you've got to stay here for your $75 a week." So I said nothing. When it was all over, I was happy I did it anyway.
That's good.
Well, I'm the fellow that gets stabbed in the end of the picture.
I was going to ask you, what was the scene that you played?
Yeah, I look like Robinson in the picture, and it'll probably be on again. I'll get another check for $17, and which is exactly what I got. You see, you can get $2,000 for doing a job. But if they want you bad enough, they will pay you on a residual basis on 75% or whatever it is of your initial salary. However, if you're just an actor like myself, the scale for the day was $158. They will pay you on scale, not on what you received.
I follow.
See?
Yeah.
And so many people that see television commercials say, "Boy, you're making a fortune." They don't know the difference between wild spots, program use, you know? There's a difference. Sometimes you can get, like, I was on one thing, what was it? Oh, yeah, Mott's Apple Juice. It was done in New York. And it was on all day long, which killed me, which means all I got was $300 for 13 weeks with unlimited use, which means they can throw it on all the time. Now I go up for an audition, and they say, "Oh, Sid, you're just right." What? "Oh, Sidney, you're a little bit overexposed." And this was a big thing. This was something very, very important that would pay me $300 almost every second time it went on.
Yeah.
But you lost that because you were overexposed. You were great, but people see you too often. So they say, "Get me somebody who looks like Sid Raymond."
Sid Raymond.
And that's the reason I went out with this show, Catch Me If You Can. I'll be away about 6 months. When I come back, I'll be a new face. Much older, but a new face.
We'll get back to our guest, Sid Raymond.
Oh, must you really?
Right after this word from our sponsor.
Get growing, get growing. You can count the difference when you're growing. Cromwell Savings Bank of Cromwell.
Perhaps this is the year you've decided to improve your home's exterior appearance. New plantings for the front yard, a new driveway, or that backyard patio you've always desired. Well, these too can be yours with a home improvement loan from the folks at Cromwell Savings Bank. Springtime is action time, so visit them soon. They're open Monday through Wednesday 9 to 3, Thursdays 9 to 5, and Fridays 9 till 7:30 p.m.
You grow more with us. Cromwell Savings Bank of Cromwell.
Cromwell Savings Bank, member of FDIC, and equal housing lender, is located at Main and West Streets in Cromwell.
Our guest tonight is Sid Raymond, who is delighting us with the stories that he has, and you have so many of this business.
You know, when you look that way, you can never tell your right eye is glass. It's wonderful. You know, it's really, have you noticed that?
Was that Peter Falk? Very similar.
Oh, sure. I might point out that Sid is appearing in Catch Me If You Can, starring Jane Russell, along with Ronald Knight and Tom Brennan.
Mention those names. Ronald is anybody that can memorize those lines, I take my hat off to.
At the Chateau de Ville.
Russell Gold and Tom Brennan is really great. And then with Jack
Washburn, sure.
Yes.
And Barbara Mundy.
Barbara Mundy, wonderful.
And Sid Raymond as Sidney. Now, how did you get a role like that with Sidney? Did you have to pull strings, or they changed the name of the character, or how did you do that?
You know, I was very lucky. I'll tell you why. Because originally, in this show in New York, was played by Dan Daly. And a little fellow by the name of Eli Mintz played the part of Sidney. And when we auditioned for the part of Sidney, there was the original character from the Broadway play auditioning. And I said, oh, my gosh, how can I get it? They want the original. And I got the part. So somebody up there likes me.
I guess
Incidentally, I was in that picture. Somebody up there likes me. Rocky Graziano.
Yes.
And also, Paul Newman played the part of Rocky. Do you remember that? Somebody up there likes me?
I remember the title.
Sal Mineo.
Pierre Angeli was in it, too, yes.
Will you share the story of Man Against Crime?
Man Against Crime? Yeah. Well, how can you do that on
that's a visual.
On radio? It's a very visual.
Sid, only you can do it.
Well, we'll imagine it.
Well, I remember on Man Against Crime, I worked with Ralph Bellamy, and there was one scene in there where I had to push him down a flight of stairs and then disappear. So I went ahead, and as I pushed Ralph Bellamy, and there was a flight of stairs, they were shooting this on film, naturally. I pushed them down a flight of stairs, and they cut. And then the stand-in comes in wearing the same clothes as Ralph Bellamy. And he goes down the stairs, you know, head over heels, all the way down the stairs. So when I pushed Ralph Bellamy, then this other guy goes down the stairs. I'm standing there and looking at him. And the director says, Sidney, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching the guy. I think he's going to get hurt. He says, get out of this shot. So the fella comes over to me and says, Sidney, that's okay. I get $15 every time I fall down a flight of stairs. So as many times as you fluff or make mistakes, that's it, you know? But I remember I had I had a blackjack up my sleeve, and I had to go over to Ralph Bellamy, and his back was toward me, and I had to get this blackjack down, and I said to the director, where do I keep the blackjack? He says, up your sleeve. I said, okay, up the sleeve it goes, and he says, all right, take two, sticks, action, let's go. Sidney, action. Which reminds me, I did an Italian picture. I did it, no kidding. I got to tell you this. No, with what's his name? What's the Italian? Alberto Sordi.
Salmi? No, that's Albert Salmi.
Alberto Sordi. It's an Italian movie, see? And I didn't have to memorize lines. They flew me down to Florida to shoot this thing, and now they're getting up to my part there, and there's an Italian director. He says, all right, Sidney, sticks, azione! And I'm standing looking at him. And he says, azione! Azione! Sid, cut! Sid, azione! I says, if you tell me what it means, I will know. So the fellow comes over and says, azione is action. I says, oh, sorry, okay. Azione! Then I went, you know, and they said, don't talk, just count numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're going to dub in your voice anyway. And the name of the picture is My Brother Anastasia.
That sounds like a good picture.
I think it played in one town, Foul Breath, Nevada. I don't know. They may be coming there anyway. Well, anyway, so I'm standing there with Ralph Bellamy and action and so on and so forth, and I'm shaking my hand. And the director says, what's wrong, Sidney? Cut! I said, the blackjack won't come down. I can't hit him. He says, well, after about 52 takes, I think I finally clobbered the poor Ralph Bellamy. He couldn't go on after that. I was supposed to miss his head, but I hit him on the head.
Never spoke to you since, huh?
He wasn't unable to.
Can I ask a question about this? Catch me if you can. Was Tom Bosley and Beryl Mercer in that? I saw the debut down on New Haven. Vincent Donahue directed. Do you know Vincent Donahue?
I don't know him, but I know
he was the director. It was the world premiere.
That's right. I think Lee Goober was the producer.
Yeah, when you mentioned Daly, because he makes so few appearances. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's the only play I ever saw like that, and it's the same one you're in.
That's right, and he's a sweetheart. I did Guys and Dolls with Dan Daly.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You can't do Dan Daly, can you, by any chance?
I don't think Dan can do that anymore because I remember he did a dance. And as he was doing the dance, he says, "Oh, give me back 15 years." Yeah. You know, the legs are getting a little rubbery now. You know, that's one thing, boy. It catches up to you.
Sid, how do you create
it's
an impression of
how does a porcupine make love? Very tenderly.
But how do you create a character?
You don't laughing in the control room.
We just lost one engineer. But do you work it up in your mind? Do you picture yourself as Jessel or?
Now, as a matter of fact, in Catch Me If You Can, I'm playing gin rummy. Mm-hmm. For the first act, I've got nothing to do, so I'm upstage there. I'm in my dressing room playing with Jack Washburn, and we're playing gin rummy. Now, the second act, I don't come in the first scene. That means I've got 15 minutes, and then I go on the second scene. But I stop playing. I try to get myself into, not that I belong to the actor's studio or anything else, but I try to get myself in the mood as Sidney, the delicatessen boy. And I go through a few lines, like certain lines that may throw me, or certain words that may throw me, and I sort of refresh in my memory and make a mental reservation of a line, like whatever it may be that throws me, that I'm afraid might throw me, see? And as a matter of fact, I got to keep up with Ron Knight. This man is really brilliant. He's got those lines, and he goes on for 2.5 hours. How he does it, I don't know. And he deserves every $4,000 a week he gets.
Right, you are. Did you ever do Ghost and Mrs. Muir on Lux?
Yes, I did. Gee, you say it just the way you wrote it. Helen Hayes was on the show, and Maurice Evans was on the show. This was on radio, too. And I believe I did the voice of Walter Winchell. I don't think I can do it anymore. Like, good evening, Mr. North and South America and ships. Let's all go to breakfast. But you see, that gives you an idea. Flush, you know, that's...
We also found on Sid the fact that he did a program called Under Arrest back in the late 30s.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was the granddaddy of the detective stories, wasn't it?
Yes, there's quite a
few. Do you remember?
And Murray Burnett, who wrote Casablanca, one of the writers of Casablanca, was one of the writers on that show, too. Oh, we did O. Henry. Wait, there was O. Henry Under Arrest. I guess that's, well, yes. What did you say?
Well, no.
I played cab drivers.
Did you?
You know, it's amazing. Whenever my daughters, I got 2 lovely daughters and a grandchild, and whenever they watch TV, when they were small, and I was an actor looking for a job, extra jobs, anything else, like I worked with Jack Klugman, Tony Randall, wonderful guys. Yeah. And they said, Sidney, don't do extra work, because it doesn't pay enough. And once you're an extra, you'll remain an extra. Turn him down. I said, are you married? He says, no. Got any children? Naturally, no. I said, I'm married, I've got children, I've got to take these jobs. They need food. He says, don't do it, Sid. But I took these extra jobs, and my kids got to know me. Their father's an extra. And whenever they saw a gang or a load of people, a bunch of truckmen, and a mob scene, they said, Dad, they could have used you.
Just your kind of part.
And once I was killed on a show, and my little daughter cried because she actually thought that her father was killed on television.
We had a story that one of our guests told.
Yeah, well, I guess it was Mandel Kramer.
Was it Mandel Kramer?
Yeah, I think it was.
Mandel Kramer.
Yeah, he had to reassure his daughter at the end of the program that he was still alive because she was listening to him. Gangbusters.
Yeah,
that's right, Gangbusters.
And he was shot.
That's right.
You know, and the emotional reaction
I was on
that
one of the
set
very
in.
first shows, Captain Video. Do you remember Captain
Yeah, where they used
Video?
to turn on the TV screen and show the old cowboy movie.
Right. Huh?
Oh, he's thinking of Ranger Andy.
No, I'm not. Down at the old Wanamaker Studios.
That's right,
Sure.
New York.
I used to be up there in the balcony.
That's when Dennis James was doing the cracking the knuckles with the wrestling matches.
Sure. Yeah, and what kind of a part did you play?
Very small.
Well, you're still growing in your career. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's about time I'm sure that Sid remembers Alan Young. You remember Alan Young?
Alan Young, I certainly do. He died a young man, too. And I knew one fellow...
he's still alive, I believe.
Alan Young. I'm sorry. Yes, Alan Young, yes. No, the fellow that died was a fellow who was his sidekick, and it was Ward Wilson was on that show, who did a lot of imitations, too. And another very dear friend of mine who's gone a long time, Artie Elmer. You might not know Artie Elmer.
No, I don't. No.
But he was magnificent, and he died at an early age. It's like the took a turn, like the patient took a turn for the nurse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's listen to the old Alan Young show, shall we?
Yeah, we've never done this before, Dick.
Well, business isn't too good at Alan's sign painting shop, so Alan's out trying to drum up a little trade. Right now, he's at the little restaurant across the street, talking to Minnie, owner of Minnie's famous Meatball Palace.
You're wasting your time, Mr. Young. It's not like this made with fancy signs. This here is a very informal, home type of case.
But, Minnie, the signs will help business. Here, look at this sample sign I made up for you. Try Minnie's two-way meatballs. They melt in your mouth and harden in your stomach.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, Blue Eyes. My mind ain't on signs today. I just had a letter from my husband in the Navy.
A letter from your sailor man? That's wonderful, Minnie.
Yeah, listen to the way he starts.
Yeah.
November 5th, somewhere in Roseland. Dear wifey, the Navy is finally releasing me. They lowered the point system, and they also took into consideration the fact that I've been in for 27 years.
That helps.
So I'll be seeing you soon, my dearest wife. I'm bringing home a little souvenir I picked up in Paris. Her name is Yvette.
Must be a French poodle.
Yeah.
Minnie, I'm very happy for you. As a matter of fact, I'd like to make you a welcome home sign free of charge.
Blue Eyes, that's mighty nice of you. I always said you're so good-hearted and generous and fine and noble.
Oh.
Well, you are good-hearted and generous and fine.
You forgot noble.
Oh, yeah, noble.
It's the least I can do. After all, your husband is being released from the Navy. I was in the Navy. I know just how he feels. I'll never forget the day I finally took off my sailor suit. It was so wonderful to sit down and feel free again.
Well, look, Blue Eyes, you'll never make any money giving signs away.
Oh, it's nothing, Minnie. I got my eye on a big order of signs from the Dit and Pepper department store. See, every year Mr. Dit and Pepper spends about $1,000 for Christmas signs.
Hiya, Mr. Young. I was just over at your sign shop looking for you.
Oh, David, boy. Minnie, I want you to meet a friend of mine, David Dit and Pepper. Mr. Dit and Pepper's little boy.
Gee, he's cute. How old are you, little boy?
I'm 10 years old.
Uh-huh. Would you care for one of my meatballs?
No, thanks. I make it a practice never to eat anything older than I am.
Minnie, don't you think David is a cute little boy?
Yeah, very cute. He must come over sometime and play on my barbed wire fence.
That voice, of course, was Minerva Pius.
That's right.
And she was a regular on Fred Allen.
Mrs. Nussbaum.
Mrs. Nussbaum.
Yeah,
She's the only one we haven't interviewed of the Allen's Alley
Is
group.
that right? She'd be happy to come down here, believe me.
Does she live in New York? We'll have to find her.
I think so, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Minerva Pius.
Yeah,
Sure.
she'd be a great addition for this program. Can you do H.V. Carlton, boy?
Well, I did it when I was a kid. Let's see if it...
Good evening, everybody. A recent communique claims that Russia does not want to have trouble with America. All Russia wants is peace with the world. A great, big peace. Good night.
Remember him?
Yeah, sure.
And then there was another one. His name was Raymond Graham Swing. He used to say that now during the war, the Nazis are flying, and one of the we shot down 15 American planes today. However, one of our cities is missing. Good night. Oh, I had to think to try to make up a line there.
You did a marvelous job. We'll be back with Sid Raymond right after this word from our sponsor.
Get growing, get growing. You can count the difference when you're growing. Cromwell Savings Bank of Cromwell.
Spring is here and time for home improvements. And home improvement time is any time you see Cromwell Savings about a home improvement loan. Cromwell Savings Bank is one friend you can borrow from. So mend your fences, add a room, redecorate the downstairs, repair the roof, or whatever else your home needs with the helping hand of a home improvement loan from Cromwell Savings. Get growing now at Cromwell Savings Bank.
You'll grow more with us. Cromwell Savings Bank of Cromwell.
Cromwell Savings Bank, member of FDIC, an equal housing lender, is located at Main and West Streets in Cromwell.
Sid, we were talking about the time when you entertained President Roosevelt down in Warm Springs.
Yes, this was in 1937. We were in a town called Valdosta, Georgia. And we were laying off. And Major Bowes heard that the president was spending the weekend at Warm Springs, Georgia. And he sent a wire, or rather they called Mr. Ross McIntyre, I believe it was, who was his secretary or someone there, and said, how would you like to be entertained by the Major Bowes amateur unit that is laying off in Valdosta, Georgia? And the president wired back, by all means. And we came down there, and I entertained the president, and it was really wonderful because I did an imitation of Edward G. Robinson, and he was no more than about 10 feet in front of me. And I put a hat on, and I put my hand in my pocket to take a rubber cigar to look at like Little Caesar, you know. And excuse me. And as I put my hand in my pocket, I noticed two men standing in front of the president, and I said, "Oh my gosh." They were Secret Service men. They didn't know what I was going to pull out of my pocket. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, gentlemen, excuse me." And I just bent the cigar to show them that it was rubber. And I put the cigar in my mouth, and I looked at the president, and squinted my eyes, and says, "All right, you guys, outside." "Yeah, scram. I want to talk to the president alone, see?" "Yeah. Hello, Franklin? Franklin, you're going a long way, see? So I want you to be nice to the boys on your way up. You may meet the same fellas on the way down. And don't forget, I'm top man, see? Yeah, me, Little Caesar, that's that, yeah." And this president, he had a knack of blinking, like Abe Burrows. "Hey, Sid, you do some job. Did you ever see Abe Burrows?" Yeah, well, I'll get back to the president, which is a little important. And it was so thrilling, he insisted on meeting everybody in the show. And I introduced each person, and Mrs. Roosevelt was there, and I didn't know. Now, if you were there, the president was there, and Mrs. Roosevelt was there, who would you introduce first? Mr. President, Mrs. Roosevelt, who? Or Mrs. Roosevelt first?
I don't know, yeah.
I was stuck.
Yeah, right.
And I said,
you all know
Mr.
one another.
President. And don't you think that Ross McIntyre said Mrs. Roosevelt first?
Beautiful.
So I said, "Thanks a million." I said, "Mrs. Roosevelt, President Roosevelt, Gus Murphy." And at the end, I was the last one. He took my hand, and his hand was like a catcher's mitt. It was brown. It was like bronze, and what a handshake, because he had no strength in his legs. All the strength must have gone to his arms and his hands. And he says, "Sid, thanks from the bottom of my heart." A president said that to me. I was ready to die. And after that was over, I had my movie camera. I took movies of him. It was raining. He says, "I don't think it's going to come out." I said, "Mr. President, I'll take that chance." And he says, "Have you got your lens wide open?" Here he has got the country on his head and is worrying about my lousy camera.
Did they come out?
That. Yes, oh yes, I have pictures home, 8mm. In those days, you know, those that you had to wind with the reels, but they're still good.
Sid Raymond, I want to thank you very much for being our guest tonight on the Golden Age of Radio. We've run out of time. We've gone through a whole hour.
One question, where do we get the money?
If I can ever find that out, Sid, I'll share it with you.
And I want to thank Ann Albert for bringing me down here. It's been a pleasure, really, and my wife coming along, and it was really a thrill. And I want to thank, Jerry Roberts, who's the producer of our show, for bringing us all out here.
I just want to remind our listeners that you'll be there through November 3rd with
right.
Jane Russell, Ronald Knight, Tom Brennan, Jack Washburn, Russell Gold, Barbara Mundy.
I'm sure you have a lot of people
if you
there.
can.
That's right, because after hearing you on the air, they're going to want to see you, Sid. I'm sure of that.
And until next time, this is Dick Bertel.
Ed Corcoran.
Good night.
The Golden Age of Radio is brought to you by WTIC Radio and Cromwell Savings Bank. Technical supervision by Bob Shirago. The Golden Age of Radio was produced by Bill Grasty and Dick Bertel.
The story of your friends, the Youngs, is brought to you by Camel, the mild beauty soap for a smoother, softer complexion.
Rinse so white and rinse so bright.